morning and welcome to Today in L.A. I'm Mike Amos, he's Bill Rice Jr., and we're ready to get started.
You know, we got a monitor that we look at when we do the show.
I took a holiday yesterday, and they worked for me, and I appreciate that very much.
I made a command decision. The general was out, and the colonel said, we're going anyway. I'm looking at my monitor, and my wife is right. I need a haircut. So. Well,
I do too, but you know what? If you slick it down enough, you can't tell.
Let's do it the other way. There we go. Mike put his Christmas tree up last night, everybody.
Well, I was
on November the 11th.
I was counting the scratches. Now, I haven't decorated it now. All I did was put it up with the lights on, and it hadn't been decorated. Probably won't be decorated.
Who decorates it, you or Carol?
I do.
I do, too, at my house.
I do, and I'm into it, and she's not, and she's at the beach, and I've got a tree down there that I decorated a week ago.
There's somebody in our neighborhood that had one up about a week ago.
Well, let me tell you this. I don't have those superstitions. Santa Claus is going to come or he's not going to come, and the Lord Jesus was born on Christmas Day. That's all I need to know. Good morning. How you doing?
Hey, morning. Y'all getting ready for the Arctic blast?
Well, I know you can tell it. Hey, listen, I knew. You know what? I'm gonna tell you. If it stays like this, we'll have ice. We'll have ice before sunset.
Oh, you're right, Mike. Yeah, that's scary.
I mean, the roads could be really bad. I mean, it's even going to freeze down here tonight, which is very rare this time of year.
It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Ask him, tell him.
Well, your daddy put up the Christmas tree last night. Now, he didn't decorate it. He hadn't put up all the ornaments, but he's got the lights and the tree up.
Yeah, that's the key to everything, the lights and the tree.
You know, the sad thing is that's only one Christmas tree. I have another one downstairs, and then I have about 7 or 8.
I did put one on the porch last night. It was already decorated, so... on my deck across the back of my house, and it looks wonderful from the woods, but I'm the only one that can see it.
Hey, let's do a viewer poll.
Well, you know what?
Raise your hand if you use an artificial Christmas tree these days.
I always use.
And then raise your hand if you still get a live Christmas tree. I suspect that the number of people that get a live tree is much lower than it used to be.
But guess what else I was doing, Mike?
You were chopping down trees?
Yep. And how many of those you think I chop down every Christmas?
I don't know, 30 probably.
You chop them down like George Washington and the cherry tree?
Oh, yeah.
The only problem is one day we're going to get a call and we'll find him in the woods one day with his bush axe in his hand.
Let's not do that.
Well, you know what, Mike? I thought about it yesterday. I said, man, if I fell down, nobody would ever find me. I was at some places yesterday nobody would have ever.
You have your cell phone with you?
Yeah, I did have the cell phone. I think I had it with me.
Doesn't it have a little beacon? Well, I don't know if that would let you.
A little ping system.
My wife has a deal on my telephone where she can find me day or night.
Yeah, a lot of people have that.
For their kids, their teenagers or whatnot.
Yeah. I mean, my wife has friends that are still single, and she knows when her friends go on dates with anybody where they are.
I bet some spouses put them on their other spouse if they think they're riding around town where they shouldn't be.
They come out with phones one day that are just phones, no cameras, no nothing, no internet, just so your kid can have a phone to call it.
Hey, Mike.
All I'm looking for one day.
Mike, you know how big our tree is.
Look at mine.
Just think I almost had a heart attack to bringing it upstairs.
Look at my phone. He said the phone that just makes calls.
Yeah, that's what I need. I need to go right back to that.
You know why I like that phone? It fits.
The old flip phone?
Yeah, I like it because it fits so nicely in my pocket.
You know, Dad, you had I was in town, and you had your son-in-law in town. We could have easily got that up the
yeah,
steps.
but we would have heard some complaints, though. You know.
You had to wait for Mom to go to the beach.
Yeah, I had to wait for her to go to the beach.
Dad used to put it up early too. The tree.
Really? Yeah. And again, it's not decorated. It's just up with lights on it, and I enjoy that part of it.
Do y'all have a lot of ornaments?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know, some people go very few ornaments, and then other people like to just put as many as I like to put as many as you can on there.
Full of ornaments. It's full of ornaments and old ornaments and
they got meaning
and a lot
to
of the traditional, just red, green.
Probably had them for
I've had them for
decades.
Years. Yeah. We used to have what they call those bubble lights. You ever remember those bubble lights? You ever remember the lights that bubbled up, on your tree?
No.
Yeah, we had those for years when my kids were young, and once they got the bulb got hot, it would start bubbling, and so the whole tree would just be bubbling. The
bubbling tree.
Yeah.
Can I tell y'all my favorite Christmas tree story? I told it in church the other day. It has to do with football too. My dad was the proverbial biggest Alabama football fan in the world. There's about 1 million of them. And in 1973, we were living in Opelika. I was 8, and Alabama was playing for the national championship against Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowl. It ended up being a classic game. Well, that game was on New Year's Eve, Mike. It wasn't on New Year's Day that year.
I remember that game.
New Year's Eve night. And Dad said he's going to keep the tree up for good luck past Christmas to let Alabama get that victory. He even wrote a letter to the Opelika Auburn News saying all he wanted for Christmas was for Alabama to beat Notre Dame. That's the setup. We watched the game. Alabama loses by 1 point when the game that came down to a pass in the last second. I'm sitting there. I watched Dad calmly get up in the den, walk into the living room, pick up that whole Christmas tree, which was big, full of ornaments.
Oh, no.
Walk to the front door, throw it out the steps, down the hill of our house, and it rolled almost to the street.
Oh, gosh.
To this day, everybody on that street in Opelika still talks about seeing that Christmas tree.
Oh, gosh.
And then he calmly walked back in the house and...
yeah, y'all lived in the Auburn, Opelika area at the time, didn't you?
I was on Facebook the other night, and an old friend from that street, 2 of them, posted that story. People took pictures of it out there.
Yeah.
I guess he eventually went out there and retrieved as many of the ornaments as he could, because we still got them. But that was...
that's great.
That's not putting a football game in proper perspective, I guess.
So did you watch the Seahawks beat the 49ers last night?
Yeah, that was a good game. Real good game. Gosh, it was almost 11 o'clock before it was over with, though.
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, they missed the field goal. The San Francisco missed the field goal, and I tell you, when the game's on the line, I reckon I'd rather have him as much Russell as much as anybody.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal player. I mean, if anybody thinks Tua, I think Tua's 6'6". Russell Wilson's maybe 5'10".
Yeah,
he's had a phenomenal NFL career.
And see what he does? He beats you running. Everybody ought to know he was going to run out of that pocket on that play. Because that's what he does, A
lot of people say that Tua reminds them of Russell and vice versa.
Yeah, I don't think Tua can run like him.
Interesting article I was reading today. Did you know they had Dylan Moses in full pads?
Oh, he played a lot.
Alabama game? No, I mean, he didn't play at all, but, he just wanted to dress out for the game. He was the one the great linebacker, the All-American linebacker that tore his ACL.
Yeah.
And I noticed him on the sideline a couple of times. I mean, that had to make Alabama fans just sick to see him in full pads on the sideline.
Yeah, he was in full pads.
He would have tackled that scrambling quarterback a couple of times, wouldn't he? If he was.
Oh, my God. He was so fast and so quick, yeah. I mean, Alabama misses him.
Does he have a year? Does he have any eligibility left?
But,
yeah, he's got another year left, but a lot of people say that his draft stock's so high that they'll even take him in the second round.
Oh, really?
With a torn ACL.
Yep. Alabama is going to be decimated by the draft. People going early and.
You know what? We might see. I don't think we'll ever see Alabama. Go away from being 10-2, 9-3, and people like that. I think Alabama might be going to go through a little bit of not hard times, but just like everybody else.
Well, next year's going to be really tough. I mean, you lose all your great wide receivers step one. You lose Tua. You lose probably a couple offensive linemen to the draft. You lose probably at least 3 other guys on defense, which probably doesn't matter. Defense is really bad. But it's going to be tough next year.
Might lose Najee after that game he had against LSU.
And you got Georgia coming to Tuscaloosa next year. So it's gonna be interesting.
But Georgia will be without their quarterback, though, won't they?
But he could say.
Some people say Fromm might come back. I don't know. We'll see.
Fromm's got the heaviest.
I think Fromm probably could be a second-round pick, though, second or third.
Yeah.
I bet he comes back.
You know, the thing that people need to look at now.
I think Najee Harris is gone.
I'm trying. I'm working on getting tickets to the Georgia game this weekend. If you want to go, we'll go. Georgia-Auburn game this weekend. And, you know, let me tell you what they're doing now. Georgia's playing defense. They're playing defense at Georgia.
They've always played defense with
You know, they shut out a pretty good team, don't you think?
They look better.
Missouri?
Well, yeah. Well, Missouri,
I wouldn't say Missouri's any good anymore.
I didn't know the quarterback didn't play at Missouri. He didn't play.
They got blown out by Kentucky. They got blown out. I mean, not blown out, but beat by a horrible, horrible Vanderbilt team. So Missouri just fell apart.
That's a great game, and I tell you, Alabama fans need to pull for Auburn to win, not only win, but win impressively, because Alabama's trying to make this fourth spot, and a good, nice win at Auburn over an Auburn team that had just beat Georgia would help the old resume.
No question
Everyone's
about
saying
it.
if Malzahn loses to Georgia and then Alabama, that he'll take the Arkansas job because he's doing all the Auburn stuff.
Yeah, because he would have lost four games. Is that right? How many games did he lose?
If he went to Arkansas, though, he would be lucky to have 6 wins every season. I mean, it's just that tough of a job. It's like what is that? Probably the 5th best job in the West.
Well, let me just say something about it. There's not any players. How many players do you hear are from Arkansas? Not many. They'd have to recruit outside the state.
I mean, it's all Texas is where they go.
You know, Tennessee's very similar to that.
Yeah.
You don't see a lot of players come out of Tennessee, you know.
Which is surprising.
Yeah, you know, I tell you, I'm tickled with him. And, you know, we're going to try to catch him on our show. Surely he'll be down here for the holidays. So we're going to try to catch Pruitt. We're going to send you over there to pick him up. Rice over there. We're going to get Rice to rent a limousine and go pick him up.
I'll do it.
Then we'll take him to Julius for breakfast.
I'd love to talk to him.
We could get Derek Ansley on from Tallahassee, the former, all-conference grade at Troy. He's their defense coordinator.
Yeah, that defense is coming along. That secondary's coming along.
Of course, we want to congratulate Coach Lindsey and his football team beating Georgia Southern. You know, I felt good about it. When somebody told me that Georgia Southern only passed the ball one time the week before. Hey, I can beat a team like that. If they're that one-dimensional, I can put 9 in the box.
When your biggest issue is pass defense, right?
Mike, I don't know how many they had. I know they had 8 in the box most of the time. But
Troy had a record. They had 9 sacks in the game.
Yeah. And let me tell you, old Wirtz and bless his heart, I could not pull for him if he was playing Russia tomorrow night, this weekend. You know, but what?
They moved. This is crazy. They hadn't done this before, but they moved Marcus Webb, who was a great defense tackle, to defensive end because Jarvis Hayes didn't play, who's been really good for Troy this year. He didn't play in the game.
Yeah.
And then, out of Spain Park, who had been a co-starter last year and played several snaps throughout his career but hadn't played at all this year, they moved A.J. Smiley, who hadn't played, to Bandit, and Smiley had 5 tackles and Marcus Webb had 3 sacks.
Yeah.
Hey,
When they did that, they put speed on the corners. You know,
That was huge. A guy that had barely been playing, put them in place, and then the other guy moves defense in, has 3 sacks.
Oh, yeah. It was a great plan.
I don't know what that means going forward, how they'll play it, but that was good in that game.
Let me tell you this. Wirtz had not been sacked but one time per game, the whole year, and we sacked him 9 times. And, I tell you what, I just can't root for the guy, though. I mean, he was definitely caught with drugs, and they let him back on, and he's a great player. Don't get me wrong about that. But Troy shut him down, Mike. I think he ran the ball 23, 24 times, and for no yardage.
He had the best passing game of his career, which I guess everybody has their best passing game against Troy because he was 12 for 16 for 181 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
That's going to win for Georgia Southern.
And they were wide open. They were running the option, play action, and that's what you can do. If they hadn't, thank goodness for them, they were able to throw it a little bit, or they've been shut down completely.
Troy took the lead, and that's the key on an option team. They got to play catch up.
Exactly right. When I was walking up, before I even got to the stadium, they'd already scored. Troy did that twice. Troy plays that fast stuff, Mike, and does a pretty good job with it. Have you noticed that?
It's called NASCAR.
I know, but I think Troy does it as much as anybody I know.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the offense they run. They're running hurry up, no spread.
Auburn used to do that, but I don't see them running that quick stuff.
Occasionally they do.
Yeah.
Still, but they used to do it all the time.
Alabama runs it pretty quick.
Calling for Georgia tickets. Calling for Georgia tickets. What time, Mike? What time? Ladies and gentlemen, the Auburn Tigers are getting ready for the Georgia Bulldogs. And believe you me, the Auburn partisan across the way is going wild. As Auburn goes head-to-head with Georgia, what's the time and the temperature, Mike? 2:30 on CBS. It's going to be a beautiful day on the plains in Auburn, Alabama.
It'll be at 5 o'clock against Mississippi State.
And Alabama's a 5 o'clock kickoff against Mississippi State. They'll get through around 9, probably, don't you think?
Ooh, I hope Alabama doesn't have a big letdown.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, you're talking about a headache. Alabama fans, they had to just sit there and wait for a couple of hours before Alabama team even came out to warm up, Mike.
Well, I thought
When is the last time you've been in that stadium before they came to warm up?
Yeah,
I thought the people that got into the game, and they said that the gates were surprisingly not as bad as people made it out to be. That the only issue was the Secret Service for checking your bags.
And they checked everything. If you had toothpaste or you had lipstick, they got it. They confiscated it.
My little brother called me, and he was inside one of these clubs at the stadium using this Tuscaloosa News Prestige, and he said he called me about an hour and a half before the game. He said, "Bill, the stadium's already half full. Everybody." He did say that he could look back and he could see long lines at gates.
That's why it was terrible. Yeah.
But I guess everybody got in before kickoff, though. It seemed like.
And I think
I hit a toll bridge. I was going through Tuscaloosa on Friday, coming back from Millport, and I hit the toll bridge in Tuscaloosa, and it was about 100 deep. And finally, they went and opened up another little ticket gate so people could get through there. But Tuscaloosa was packed even on Friday.
Yeah, I know it was. And of course, it was great that the president was there, and it was great that the president got a standing ovation.
Did the president stay the whole game? Does anybody know?
He left in the fourth quarter.
Until 10 minutes ago in the fourth quarter, I heard.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as I know, all the protesting and all the stuff going on, nothing really bad.
They said he had a good time. He's a regular guy. He's a football fan.
Well, he started the USFL. He used to own a football team.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, he signed Herschel, didn't he?
Did he sign Herschel?
Herschel for more money than the NFL. That's why Herschel went to USFL.
Yeah, I remember that. Out of Philadelphia, one team out of Philadelphia. That's where he lived anyway.
I think it was a New Jersey team.
The New Jersey Generals, I think.
Okay, yeah.
You can't really blame Herschel. I mean, he took more blows to his body. I mean, they were running him 40 times a game at Georgia. But if you're going to get hit, take that many hits, you might as well get paid for it.
Let me just
we're talking about Najee. I mean, what has he got to gain by coming back for another year?
Yeah. Najee played his.
Look at what Josh Jacobs is doing in the pros. He's fresh. He didn't have many carries throughout his whole career at Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's going to be Rookie of the Year in the NFL.
Yep. You see where Derrick Henry got 188?
Did he really?
Yeah, Henry's really coming along now.
Boy, he's a great athlete.
Henry's the type player, you got to give him the ball. If you give it to him 20, 25, 30 times a game, he gets better as the game goes on.
Isn't he 6'5", and weighed about 230, 240?
Yeah, he's the biggest running back ever.
And let me tell you, can outrun everybody. I mean, can fly.
But he's not going to do well if you just give it to him 3, 5, 6 times.
You know, everybody talks about that quarterback at LSU, and he is a great quarterback, but hey, give me that running back. They couldn't tackle him. They could not tackle him. He was one of these strong guys.
We talked about it. We said that.
He looked like Mark Ingram.
You're the one that said he looks like Mark Ingram, Michael, and you're absolutely right.
He was probably no more, about 5'8", probably maybe 5'9" at his tallest.
And Burrow runs the ball surprisingly well, which hurts. Alabama cannot stop a running quarterback, which doesn't bode well for Saturday.
Ever since George Mara, I'm going to make some folks fall out of their chair this morning. Ever since the great George Mara at Miami was a great running quarterback, George Mara, probably about 5'9", 5'10", played in Miami.
Alabama can't stop him.
No, they couldn't stop him then, what I'm saying.
They couldn't stop Johnny Touchdown, Johnny Football.
Well, a lot of people couldn't stop him, though.
I was at the game where they couldn't stop Doug Flutie when Boston College came back and beat Ray Perkins' team.
I remember that.
I remember in the fourth quarter watching Alabama's defensive linemen, and they just quit running. They couldn't even run.
This ball game is brought to you by Hill and Brooks. Coffee, 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 coffee. And go to Hill and Brooks.
I went to the Manziel game, and I was sitting up in a box.
I remember that.
And I'll never forget, I was sitting up there with the CEO of Regions Bank and his wife in the box, and we were all upset watching Manziel, and I'll never forget, I slammed my hands down on the box, and my drink fell on his wife's head.
Oh, gosh.
Needless to say, I was wanting to get out of that box.
Well, I know you called me from that game and said, Daddy, this guy's unreal. I remember you doing that.
I'd never seen anything like it. It was unbelievable.
He might have been the best college quarterback that ever played. He was really
he was just like Doug Flutie, but he was probably faster.
You know, the owner of the establishment around
and then he's completely out of football now. It's amazing.
It's a shame. It's a real shame.
You know, we watched Cam come back. We were at that game when Alabama got up 24-0. It should have been up 31-0, and that was an amazing comeback. And you know, Burrow's got to be considered one of those great quarterbacks. You know, you go down the list of great athletes at quarterback that beat Alabama, and I'll have to put him in there because he can run and throw.
He's cerebral. He's poised.
Thank you.
Yeah, he's really good. But I think we all knew it going into the game, and we talked about the running back. I thought that Alabama was going to have to outscore them. You know, if they broke our serve, they were going to probably win, which Alabama serve was broken several times.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. Like a Clemson LSU national championship game would be amazing to watch. I'd actually be excited to see that game.
It would be.
That's what you'll probably end up seeing.
Quarterback, how many times have you heard me, and you out there have heard me that's watched this show, say if LSU ever gets a quarterback, look out? How many times you heard me say that, Mike? They've always been the problem with LSU for years is not having a quarterback that could win the big game.
Or the right offense, yeah.
That's right.
The amazing thing is how many Troy players are still on the roster that beat LSU. You know, that was only 2 years ago.
Yeah, I know it. That's right.
I mean, it's just amazing to think how far that program's come.
Well, I know that little running back played against Troy. Did you know that?
Mm-hmm.
That little running back played against Troy.
He would have.
I mean,
I shouldn't call him a little. He's not a little Hercules running back. That's what he is.
You know, LSU had Danny Etlin at quarterback when Troy beat him.
Yeah, that's right.
He's like a wide receiver in the NFL now, so he was a good athlete, but just not a very good passer.
I can remember seeing those guys leave that stadium. It was almost empty by the time that game was over.
A lot of people thought Orgeron was going to get fired from that game.
Yeah, I know it.
And then the next week he went on the road and beat Florida. You know, they ended up winning 10 games that year. That's what people don't ever talk about. That was a really decent LSU team Troy beat.
Oh, yeah.
Bad team.
Biggest play in the game was Rucker drilling. I mean, just drilling that tailback that came through. The ball shot straight up in the air. I remember that. And Troy recovered, and it was Troy's game. The rest of it.
You know, what nobody talks about is how many times that Chun fumbled.
Yeah.
If Chun doesn't fumble inside the 10-yard line twice, Troy wins by 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, I know. Troy, I felt like that, too. Of course, Chun had a big run in that game. You remember that?
Yeah, I mean, he rushed for 200 yards. He had several big runs, but he also fumbled twice.
I wonder what's his future like.
He was on the practice squad with the Cowboys, but he got cut.
He's a great young man. He is a wonderful young man.
You know, I was looking at the Sun Belt standing. It's just amazing. I was telling you this yesterday, Dad, how much parity is in the Sun Belt. App State's leading the Eastern Division, and they're 8-1. Of course, you know, they beat South Carolina, so now They've beaten South Carolina and North Carolina, and they're 4-1 in the conference. Georgia Southern's 3-2, so they're 5-4. They need one more game to get a bowl eligible. Your favorite team, Georgia State, got beat by 3 touchdowns by La Monroe.
I know it. I could not believe it.
And Georgia State is now 3-2 in conference, 6-3 overall. Troy is 2-3, 4-5 overall. Coastal Carolina, who Troy, I think they're going to regret that loss severely. Beat Troy, with the 2-point conversion. They're 1-4 in conference, 4-5 overall. So all those teams in the Eastern Division still have, 3 games left and have a really good chance to get to 6 wins. And then in the Western side, you got Louisiana Lafayette. They're 4-1, 7-2 overall.
So you say that Troy is not mathematically eliminated from winning the East?
Well, no. What I'm saying is there's so many teams that could be bowl eligible that there's not going to be enough bowl top ends. Is what I'm talking about. You're going to have.
But my home's in Alabama. Whoa. But what I'm saying, Montgomery, Alabama, if they can get Troy, Mike, they'll crawl down here and get them.
They're 7-2 overall. Arkansas State, who beat Troy, is 3-2 in conference, 5-4 overall. La Monroe's 3-2 in conference, 4-5 overall.
Gosh.
Texas State, who Troy plays this weekend, Troy can knock them out of consideration. They're 2-3, 3-6 overall. And then South Alabama, Dad, we hate it because we know Coach Eddingfield, Coach Campbell, Coach Stewart, but they are now 0-5 and 1-8 in their second year. You got to think they're going to make a change after this.
Yeah, and I hate it. I hate it for them. They didn't have the quarterback, Mike. That was the problem.
Well, he had won everywhere he'd ever been, too.
Did y'all see that UAB got stomped by Southern Miss?
Yeah, what's happened to UAB, Mike?
Well, they lost their quarterback.
Yeah, a lot of offensive guys got hurt, yeah. How about 37-2? That wasn't much of a game, was it?
Gosh.
Hey, Michael, check out, who does App State have left in the conference?
They play Georgia State this weekend.
And then they play Troy. Anybody else?
Where they play that Georgia State game, Mike? Where they play that game?
In Atlanta.
All right, well, I'll tell you right now.
App State can have 3 losses,
I'm going to take
folks.
Georgia State. I'm going to take Georgia State. Do y'all realize how bad I beat y'all last week? I mean, on both shows, I wore y'all out.
No.
I didn't grade them yet, but I just know how many teams that I took that y'all didn't take.
We all took Pike County.
App State's got Georgia State, and then they play at home against Texas State, and then on the road against Troy.
So App State, if they get upset by Georgia State, if Troy could somehow upset them, App State would have 3 losses. If Troy wins out, Troy would have 3 losses.
Yeah, I was looking at some of these games last.
It makes you wonder. Then I guess Troy would represent.
Well, Georgia State would need to lose, and Georgia Southern would need to lose one more.
Yeah, Georgia State would need to lose.
But it's not out of the realm of possibilities.
Georgia State would win the tiebreaker, though.
Yeah.
But they could lose to somebody else.
Let me tell you this. Let me be perfectly clear. The Bowl can take anybody they want that won 6 games. I know that for a fact. Can you believe Florida State just goes to Boston College and wears them out?
Well, Boston College tied them up with about, I think, 4 minutes left.
Yeah.
And then Florida State scored a touchdown, then scored another touchdown with like a couple, 20 seconds left. I think made a long run for a touchdown. So that game was a little closer than people think.
Yeah. Of course, Purdue beats Northwestern. Vanderbilt gets killed.
The shock of the day was Oklahoma. I mean, Oklahoma was up by 21 at the half against Iowa State. They were just cruising, and I was watching the game. I mean, next thing you know, he throws a ball to the wide receiver Lamb, who's phenomenal. He gets stripped. They follow the ball. Iowa State scores. Then Hurts throws one of the worst interceptions I've ever seen. Iowa State, scores again. And that Campbell, they had all the momentum. They had stuffed Oklahoma 4 straight series. Oklahoma couldn't even move the ball. And that Iowa State coach, for some reason, went for 2 instead of overtime.
I don't know why he didn't do it. And Purdy, their quarterback, is really good, too.
Yeah, I mean, they have a really good offense. And the defense was playing good. I don't know why they didn't go to overtime with them.
Yeah, exactly.
I've read it. The percentage of chances you go for 2 and make it, I think, is about 40%.
Yeah.
So, you play probabilities. So you're saying your odds of winning in overtime are better than 40%. And I agree with Michael, yeah.
I'll tell you another thing, too. The people that want to go for 2, most of them will end up getting fired. I think that's the worst thing in the world. I mean, like, I couldn't believe that Coastal Carolina went for 2. It's one of
Coastal Carolina, had a horrible season, hadn't won a conference game. I can understand they're trying to do anything to win because.
I found out from some guys that went, said it was one of the worst calls they have ever seen in their life. When they went for 2, they said everybody went straight up. It's just like a basketball game. Unless he reaches in there and grabs him and throws him to the ground, no way it could be passing.
But these referees decide the outcomes of games all the time.
Right.
And
Coach Lindsey showed a lot of class, though, because he never mentioned it one time.
I know it.
Well, the Alabama LSU game, that I still think that play where the guy went out of bounds and came back in was a terrible call. And that Alabama lost by how much? 5 points, and that gave LSU 7 points, and it really led to their next touchdown.
That was Randy Moss's son.
Was it? The play for LSU?
Yeah, Ezekiel Moss is Randy Moss's son.
Yeah.
The great wide receiver. Another play at LSU is when Alabama had 12 guys on the field, we got an interception.
Yeah.
It was just
that was a terrible call.
A comedy of errors for Alabama. I tell you, if Alabama
though, early, in the second half when they brought McKinney in on that blitz and he hit Burrow and he fumbled and Terrell Lewis caught the ball, I thought that was one of the biggest plays of the game because Alabama, you're at the 50-yard line. You would expect Alabama to get points, and LSU just stuffed them and got a 3 and out. And Alabama, they needed every possession they could get in the second half, and to get no points there, I thought was big.
Let me just say this: the worst part of Alabama's team, I think, is the secondary. Y'all know who coaches the secondary, don't you?
Yeah,
Saban coaches the secondary. Yeah.
They always have a lot of busts.
They had so many wide open guys. I mean, Burroughs was basically just like 7 on 7, just like a guy called in on the radio show yesterday. I mean, it was just unbelievable.
Yeah.
They get up there and jam these receivers, and I don't know why I wouldn't back off of these receivers and give them a little cushion, but they're not going to do it.
This show is brought to you by Help Actions, located on the bypass right here in Troy, and of course they do a super job. We appreciate it. They're out of Jackson, Alabama, but they moved in here to Troy about 5 or 6 years ago, and it's really been outstanding. Bill Jackson Chevrolet Ford, located on the bypass right here in Troy, and boy, I don't know if I've ever seen so many cars on their lots as both of those Ford and Chevrolet and General Motors and Ford Motor Company vehicles are all over the place on the bypass right here in Troy.
Minnesota, of course, beat Penn State, and Penn State, had a chance at the end of the game. So Minnesota's now 9-0. They travel to Iowa this weekend.
They're gonna get beat. They'll get beat at Iowa.
Iowa's favored.
Yeah, Iowa's gonna beat them. Iowa's not bad, Mike. And we make fun of their coach. He's been making $4 or $5 million for the last 20 years, I reckon, at Iowa.
I don't make fun of him.
And
Kirk Ferentz is they're always a hard team to figure out.
Well, I'm saying they never win the big game.
Yeah.
But he's a solid.
If they get through that game, I think they're going to go undefeated because they're going to beat Northwestern, and then they get Wisconsin at home, and I think they'll beat Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. I don't know. I think the chances of them getting beat will be the Hawkeyes this weekend.
Or Wisconsin. I just don't think they'll be beat. Baylor will be beat. It's going to come down to if Alabama beats Auburn, that's a big if. But if they could, it'll come down to Alabama and Oregon or Alabama and Oklahoma. And I think Alabama has an outstanding case over both of those teams. They got the best case.
What's going to help Alabama is you didn't realize it at the time, but Oregon getting beat by Auburn the first game of the year. Now, if Alabama goes on the road and wins at Auburn, that should end that debate, because Alabama, beat Auburn and Oregon lost to them.
And then Alabama would have beat them at Auburn's place,
all right,
too.
Let's look at it. We know
Auburn to beat Georgia because Auburn will be, ranked probably 6 or 7 if they beat.
That's
Georgia.
That's right. So Alabama should be pulling really hard for Auburn this weekend.
Y'all know who's got to get beat to make this thing work is Ohio State. They need to lose to Michigan, and I think they might.
That would help, but I don't think that has to happen.
You don't have to have that happen. You're basically you're going to have Ohio State, I think, win out. Clemson's going to win out. LSU, I think LSU's in it regardless. When they go to the SEC championship game, even if they were to get beat by Georgia, I think they're still in it. And then I think
Georgia's another team. I think if they went on the way.
Yeah, but if Georgia has 2 losses, what I'm saying, if they get beat by Auburn, even if they beat LSU, they wouldn't be in it. And then, then you got Alabama in the debate with Oregon, Utah, of course, Oklahoma.
Penn State, maybe.
Already out of it. That's what you're going to be looking at right there. But there's so much Alabama fatigue. Nobody wants Alabama in this thing again.
I know it, but the committee is just their mandate is to pick the 4 best teams. So I know there's Alabama fatigue, but if you say they're honest people and they follow that mandate, who cares if there's Alabama fatigue? You pick the best 4 teams.
The reason they won't do it, though, Bill, is because they'll have Alabama as a 4 and LSU at number 1.
They play each other.
I want to see that, again, right away. Maybe for the national championship they could have handled it, but I don't think they want it the first
Well,
game.
they could put Ohio State number 1 because Ohio State is going to have, if they win out, they're going to have victories over Penn State, over Michigan, and then in the Big Ten Conference Championship game against Wisconsin or Minnesota. That's pretty good wins. So, it'll be a coin flip whether it's Ohio State or LSU number 1.
Alabama, the team I saw in 2011, that team deserved to play for a national championship. That was a great team. I'm not seeing greatness out of Alabama, the team I watched against LSU. I don't think they deserve a playoff spot. But, if it happens, it happens.
I just think you need to say, are they one of the 4 best teams? And then you compare them to the other teams that are considered as the 4th team. And like you said earlier, it comes down to Oregon, Utah, Oklahoma. And I defy anybody to say that they would think that Oregon is better than Alabama. If Alabama beat Auburn and Oregon lost to them,
there's no doubt Tua's health affected at least 14 points in that game. The first series when he was running in for a touchdown or trying to get a first down, he switched the ball into his the opposite hand and was trying to either throw or scramble, couldn't make his mind up, and he fumbled. So that's either going to be 3 or 7 points. And then the horrible interception before the half. Alabama was only down 19-13 with about 2 minutes left.
Yeah. Everybody talks about that LSU deserved to win, but you can count on your right hand things that Alabama, if they would have done, they would have won the game.
So many points. If Alabama's only down 14 at the half, that's a totally different game in my opinion.
Well, then I missed talking about Tua. Another play, he slid on a 3rd down, and Alabama didn't get the first down.
Yeah, they brought in that Slade Bolden at quarterback and tried to be cute and run like a little wildcat play, and he got stuck.
Oh,
but I think if Tua is 100%, he lowers his shoulder and gets that first down, and that drive probably ends up in points.
Yeah. Well,
amazing how a season can change. Alabama won 29-0 in Baton Rouge last year and just made it look easy. And LSU changes their offense, and they're just a totally different team. It's just amazing what can happen in a year.
Well, again, it's the quarterback. They've got a premium quarterback. What?
He was a quarterback last year and got stuck.
But let me tell y'all, we're doing all this talking. It's going to be Clemson and Ohio State for the national championship.
No, LSU.
Oh, yeah, those are the 2 guys out there. Both of those guys will beat LSU. I guarantee you.
Oh, I don't know. You didn't watch
the Clemson Tigers, Mike. Let's think how great this is. This would be their 3rd straight undefeated. How many have they won in a row?
That's a good question.
How many Clemson are won?
They went 15-0 last year.
Yeah, they're, what, 9-0 now?
You look at what they've done is phenomenal against a very, very tough schedule.
Well, Alabama was the last team that beat them. They beat them in the playoffs when Kelly Bryant was the quarterback.
Yeah. But just think the dominance of Clemson right now. Nobody in their league can beat them.
Clemson's got to be 23 in a row, 24 in a row, something like that.
Yeah. That's impressive now. But Ohio State and Clemson. Let's just say this: if I had to bet my house on it, that's who I'd say is going to play for the national.
I'll make a bet right now that if Alabama wins out, beats Auburn in Auburn, Alabama's in the playoffs. Anybody want to take the bet for a cup of coffee? Or?
I'm sort of like Michael. What was the wording you used, Mike? That people are getting tired of Alabama or what?
Yeah, I don't doubt that. But there's only 13 people that make that decision. They're not taking a poll of the
key
country.
game is Michigan going up against Ohio State. Somebody needs to beat Ohio State. And would that knock Ohio State out?
No, they'd still be in the debate. They'd be in the exact same boat as Alabama.
How many games did Michigan lost? 2 or 1?
2. If Ohio State lost to Michigan, you would have the exact scenario as 2017, where Alabama lost its last game to a very good Auburn team at their place. Ohio State could lose their last game to a very good Michigan team at Michigan.
They're playing at the Big House.
Remember Herb Street 2 years ago saying Alabama doesn't deserve it, they should be out. You listen to Herb Street this year. If Ohio State loses a close game to Michigan, he's gonna be arguing as loud as he can. Ohio State should not be disqualified for one loss to a very good team at their place.
Now let me tell you all the difference. Mike, hear this. If Alabama played was in the top 4, would they be predicted to beat Clemson, or would they be predicted to beat Ohio State? I think both those teams would be. I believe both those teams would be.
It'd be close. They'd probably be favored.
Would be favored over Alabama.
I think LSU would be a slight favorite.
And LSU.
I think Clemson would be a favorite over Alabama, and then I think Ohio State might be a pick 'em.
I think Alabama, if Alabama plays LSU again, and Tua's healthy, doesn't miss all those
they
practices.
beat LSU. They play them again.
I got no doubt that I would load up on Alabama if they
so,
play.
I mean, did you not see how horrible Alabama's defense is?
Yeah, but
You know what I would do, and I would blitz. I'd blitz every down. I'd pressure this quarterback every down.
That's what they didn't do. They dropped Lewis back in coverage a lot because he's so big, 6'6". I guess they were hoping he would deflect some balls, but they had Jennings. Jennings had 2 sacks in the first half, but then he got hurt.
Is he okay?
All right.
I don't know if he'll play against Mississippi State or not.
Oh,
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and say Clemson's in, Ohio State's in if they beat Michigan, and LSU's in. That's all right. Who's the 4th team? That's the biggie right here. Who's the 4th team?
Well, everybody's saying Oregon. Oregon's got to play at Arizona State. They got to play Arizona. They got to win a conference championship game, or Utah. But I keep coming back to is a one-loss Oregon or Utah in the Pac-12, which is not the SEC, better than a one-loss Alabama, whose only loss was a close game to the number 1 team in the country in a game where your quarterback was not 100%. That way, it becomes a pretty easy answer, right?
Yeah.
How much would Alabama be favored over Oregon?
At least by 9.
Yeah,
So you're going to pick the team that is going to be. You're going to leave out the team that would be a 9-point favorite. I think it would be about a 12-point favorite. Alabama would be over Oregon.
Then you're going to have Nike, Phil Knight can get involved,
Well, maybe so. Yeah.
Playing all these NCAA people about Nike and his team Oregon.
Well, he could threaten to pull all his
y'all-
advertising from ESPN. That's right.
Y'all. This answers your question. This answers your question.
I think Oklahoma.
Who deserves to be in there over Alabama?
That's the way to phrase
Clemson
it.
deserves it. Ohio State and LSU. Now, who else deserves it more than Alabama
That's the
on that
question.
4th
I
seed?
think you're going to have Oklahoma beat Baylor too, because if Baylor goes undefeated,
Oh,
they'd have to win.
yeah, that's right. You're going to need Baylor to lose and Minnesota to lose.
Now Baylor went to 3 overtimes and had a miracle win against TCU.
Yeah, I'd taken
And
TCU.
Baylor almost got beat by Neil Brown in a horrible West Virginia team at home a couple weeks ago. I mean, West Virginia is awful.
We're just assuming that Minnesota and Baylor lose, but you're right. They could win out, and Alabama would have no case.
I was taking Arizona State. Arizona State's quarterback didn't play against USC, and USC beat Arizona State 31-26.
Yeah, exactly.
It'd be nice if Arizona State could beat Oregon and somebody beat Utah. I think Oklahoma's out. I mean, they got beat by Kansas State. Then they almost lost to Iowa State.
Well, Kansas State is good, though. I mean, they were up 14-0 on Texas, and Texas had the ball at the 1-yard line late, and everybody thought they were going to go up by 7. Instead, they had to kick a field goal just to win the game.
Yeah, but I still think Kansas State has 4 losses, 3 or 4.
Oklahoma just had 1 loss.
Yeah, but they almost lost to Iowa State. That game was a 1-point.
Yeah, I know. I knew that. Now, who they still got to play? Oklahoma State or who?
Yeah, they got Oklahoma State. They got Baylor.
Oh, okay.
And then they probably got a Big 12 championship game.
And if Baylor goes undefeated, I think they deserve to be in it.
Yeah.
If Baylor goes undefeated.
I wouldn't say anything if any of these teams go undefeated and win their conference title, Minnesota or Baylor.
And Alabama would have to be impressive over Auburn.
That would help.
You know, Alabama might run in trouble with Mississippi State. Mississippi State's playing pretty good right now.
Without Anthony Jennings, you just said, maybe?
Mississippi State, they're coming off a victory against Arkansas. How much can you tell from that?
But
well,
they've got a running quarterback, which just...
they're 4-5.
Yeah.
I think it'll be... Hopefully Alabama can just get by them. I bet it'll be ugly, though.
Mike, how did our guy from SMU do this week?
I don't know. He must have made a lot of tackles because the final score is 59-51.
No question about it. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back.
Trojan Auto Parts of Troy, home of Napa Know-How. Stop by and see owners Mike and Melissa Kilcrease and their Napa Know-How team with over 100 years of combined experience. We're the only locally owned parts store in Pike County, and we're fully stocked and ready to serve you. We pride ourselves on being your go-to parts store, not only for the simple items, but we specialize in those hard-to-find items as well. Trojan Auto Parts, the right part at the right price at the right time. Napa, a name you've trusted here in Troy since 1945.
Are you a driver trainee looking for a job? Then come to Wiley Sanders Truck Line, where we reimburse you for your driver training pay. Thank you so much for bringing Reed State to Wiley Sanders Truck Line.
Absolutely. And now that we brought them to you, what do you have to offer them?
I have a lot to offer them. I can offer them 401k. I can give them 4% of their gross pay. I can give them Blue Cross Blue Shield. I can get them home twice a week and every weekend. That's right, twice a week, every weekend. Wiley Sanders Truck Line, Troy, Alabama. Thank you, sir.
At Marguerite's, we've been designing and crafting custom jewelry for 4 generations. It's an art for master jewelers. There's really no room for error. It doesn't matter how big the diamond is. You don't expect anything less than perfection. What matters is quality, beauty, and value. After all these decades, your engagement ring is still our greatest pride. Marguerite's exquisite jewelry.
At the Piggly Wiggly, we proudly support our local farmers and bring you the best they have to offer, all at cost plus 10%. When you shop local, you reinvest in your community. Remember, buy local, shop local. Piggly Wiggly, local since forever.
Big discounts, big selection, and really big deals. It's the big pre-owned sale. Only at Premier Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Pre-owned vehicles start at $29.95. Over 50 vehicles under $15,000. $29 down, and you can drive today or take advantage of payments starting at $99 a month. That's $29 down, and payments starting as low as $99. From Montgomery to Dothan, the best pre-owned deal are at Premier Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram or online at PremierChrysler.com. Nobody beats a Premier deal. Nobody.
He went wrong place.
We're back. Well,
back to our show, and of course, how did West Virginia do this weekend, Mike?
Well, they were a 1-point underdog to Texas Tech, and they got beat 38-17.
Boy, I tell you, that was his old team. He coached there with Tuberville, Coach Brown.
Yeah, I mean, it was a situation where, Utah State's coach is the new Texas Tech coach, and Neil Brown was candidate for that job as well, and it's one of those things where unfortunately it's going to take a while, it looks like, to get his players in there and get guys to buy into what his system is. I don't know if he'll win another game. If you look at the rest of the schedule, it's really, really tough.
We were talking, I talked to a friend of mine yesterday, and he's pretty knowledgeable. We were talking about Arkansas and how bad they were. It's not a good recruiting. You don't hear of a lot of people from Arkansas being signed to play for anybody. I don't know why. Is it just high school football is not that good in that state, or what?
It's a small state.
You get players out of Texas is what they do.
Yeah.
But it's also the population of the state is not that large.
Yeah.
But historically, they've done it. I make the case that Arkansas should have never joined the SEC. They would have been much better off staying in that the old Southwest Conference, which became the Big 12. I mean, they've never won an SEC title in football, never really competed for one. The last couple of years have been atrocious. What have they really gained by making this move.
Mike, I want to mention Cincinnati. They haven't lost but one game, have they?
I don't know. I'd have to look.
All right, and I tell you another. Let's look at some coaches' jobs. This guy at Illinois, is that Lovie Smith?
That's right. He's
done a good job down the stretch with Illinois. Michigan State's having their worst year ever. And Virginia Tech, whoever their coach is, he's turned that team around too. He's done a great job.
It's all how you finish.
Justin Fuentes.
Can I make a point talking about how you finish? What if Tuberville beats, not Tuberville, what if Gus beats Georgia Saturday, which is a coin toss, then Auburn, coming off the momentum of that win, beats Alabama, then Auburn wins a big bowl game. Suddenly you got Auburn 11-2. Their only losses were on the road to LSU by 3 and the close game to Florida.
That's right.
Alabama would have lost deflating games at the end of the year, including to their rival for the second time in a row at their place. Alabama would probably fold the tent in the bowl game, and half their team probably wouldn't even play. They'd probably lose the bowl game. Then the state of football in the state of Alabama is completely different, is it not? So see how things can flip in a very short time.
Somebody told me that if Alabama goes to the Sugar Bowl, there'd be more $5 and $10 tickets available than ever seen. That nobody would want to go to that game.
I don't care. It's still New Orleans. I'd go in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I know it'd be fun, wouldn't it? But it's going to be interesting. And
Troy, if they win this weekend against Texas State, they're 8-point favorite in Vegas. Troy gets to 5-5. I still say Lafayette's the best chance to get to a bowl. I don't think Troy can beat Appalachian State.
I think they match up better with
But see, Troy's played Lafayette really well over the years. Troy's got, I think, a 5-game winning advantage in the history of that series.
Yeah.
They've always played Lafayette well.
Yeah, that's right. But let me just say this. You're going to laugh at me.
Mm-hmm.
Other than, I don't know. Other than the LSU quarterback and the quarterback at
Oklahoma,
Alabama, I think our guy throws the ball as good as anybody out there. I really do.
How many yards did he have against Georgia Southern?
He had 330-something yards against them, but Troy rushed for right at 3.
It's really just so sad that we wasted a year of his career.
I know it. You're exactly right. Wouldn't that have been great to know? This guy can throw a football, and he does it. If you watch him in the pocket, he hangs in that pocket longer than anybody I've ever seen.
Yeah, I like that, yeah.
But you know what? Don't you know the pros love that?
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
The guy that's going to stay in that pocket, and then he's got pretty good speed to get
He doesn't
out
have the nervous feet in the pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah, the pros just aren't going to like the fact he's had so many injuries.
Yeah, that's right.
ACLs.
But let me tell you this.
If he would have never had those, he would be really special.
We're talking about Caleb Barker, the quarterback at Troy, is a very good.
He's already married. He's probably ready to just go ahead and get on with his life.
Yeah. Well, he's from Priceville, Alabama. How many players you ever heard from Priceville, Alabama? A little bitty town south of Decatur.
I've never even heard of Priceville, Alabama.
I'll tell you right now, that young man.
The interstate, you either go left to Decatur or right to Priceville.
Yeah. You know, when he won the job over the rest of those quarterbacks that were, competing for him, people were wondering what did he bring to the table. Well, let me just tell you this: he brings to the table a pro arm. I mean, the guy, and he gets rid of the ball quickly too.
Well, look at the starting quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars right now.
Yeah, he was.
Where was he 5 years ago?
That Troy.
Yeah, Brandon Silvers beat him out.
Exactly. Now, when is that league?
Barker's numbers are pretty incredible. I have to admit, his numbers are. He's this year in 9 games, he's thrown for. He's had 230 completions out of 344 attempts. That's almost 67%.
That is phenomenal there.
Completion percentage, and now he's already thrown for 2,800 yards with 3 games left, 24 touchdowns. And, he's averaging 311 yards a game at quarterback. So that's a guy that's got a really logistic chance to pass for over 3,500 yards and maybe have 30 touchdowns.
He might lead the nation. I mean, pretty close. Let me just say this about him.
Tua's got 30 touchdowns. Joe Burrows has got 30.
And no telling how many times I can remember Troy having long plays that were tackled before they got the end zone that would have been touchdowns. I bet he had 10 situations where they were stopped short of the goal line and then ran it on in for a touchdown. So he didn't get credit for all those touchdown passes. Or he'd have close to 40 touchdown passes, I would think. But he is a player, no question.
I mean, the offense has not been the issue for Troy this year. I mean, the offense has been really good. I mean, how about DK Billingsley? You know, he's coming in for the all-conference B.J. Smith, and all Billingsley's done in 9 games has rushed for almost 800 yards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know it. And boy,
so he's going to rush for over 1,000 yards.
You know, I saw him preseason. You know how I go to the practices, you know, when they first get here and everything. And I saw him, and I said, man, you could be one of the all-time greats. And you know what I was looking at? Unbelievable legs. Look like a huge, big, strong calves and thighs. I told him he could become one of the great ones, and sure enough, he has. He's pretty good, isn't he?
Yep, you were right. Well, the offense is done their part. You're right, and we have documented what happened to the defense. It's kind of a fluke, almost out of your control, out of Coach Chip Lindsey's control, that they lost all those potential starters.
Yeah, Troy averages 36 points, 3 points a game, and gives up over 32 points a game. I mean, that's just a lot of points to give up a game, 32 points a game.
That is, and bless his heart, you know, you would wanted him to play better defense than they did. I'm looking for that, everybody they played, they've scored 40 points a game in almost every game, haven't they?
Well, they got shut down by Missouri, and then they didn't score as many against Akron or against Georgia State.
And of course, no question.
I mean, how about this, though, about the walk-on player out of McGill, Tulane, Carlin Marshall, who was a freshman All-American last year? I mean, look at these numbers. These numbers are just absolutely incredible. This guy plays middle linebacker for Troy. He's got 94 tackles. 94 tackles with 3 games. He's got 16 and a half tackles for loss.
Isn't that amazing?
And 4 sacks.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just incredible the year he's having a linebacker. He ought to be an All-American.
Well, I'll tell you somebody else that played great with number 5. He got words 3 or 4 times. What's his name?
Will Cholo.
Hey, Will Cholo. Boy, he ran him down, too. That was why words was not used to. Troy's fast. They're real fast, and they ran him down several times.
You know, with linebackers, you got to look at where they're making those tackles. I remember when Alabama had Keith McCants. Remember, he was going to be the greatest linebacker of all time, and he was very good. And he made a ton of tackles. But I always noticed that he was making those tackles at 6 yards, 5 yards, 7 yards. And really, you'd love to see a linebacker making a tackle at 2 yards and in, right up near the line of scrimmage. He was running people down, in other words, instead of filling the holes.
Yeah, he's a guy that was a first-round draft pick, and then he had all kinds of off-the-field issues with drugs, and I think he's broke. And I don't even know, is McCants even still alive?
Barely, I think. Bless his heart.
Let me tell you, I was looking at the top players in the state this week, and one of them, and I want you to remember this, Stanhope Elmore. How many players have we recruited out of there, especially running backs? They've got another one named Daquan Pittman. All he did rush for 101 yards, 3 touchdowns on 5 carries, and caught 4 passes for 85 yards and 2 touchdowns. And he's a run. Excuse me, that's not him. I was looking at the wrong one. That's the kid from Brantley. And of course, the great quarterback is that sophomore.
Sounds like they got a great running back too.
Gilcrease. But the running back is Travarius Treverson Duncan, running back out of Stanhope, rushed for 202 yards and 4 touchdowns on 37 carries as Mustangs beat Paul Bryant 35-12. We've recruited 3 or 4 running backs out of there over the years. Don't you agree?
Well, who was that guy from Brantley you just talked about? Let's talk about him some more.
And he's a kid from Brantley, and Brantley's got the great young quarterback, Tucker Gilcrease, that is really, really good. And, well, the team of the week's got to be Park Crossing, though, Mike. They won a huge game.
Team of the week's got to be T.R. Miller.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, T.R. Miller, Bruton beat Pike County.
That running back for Brantley, what you were talking about, is Daquan Pittman that rushed for 101 yards
that's right.
on only 5 carries, and he also had 85 yards in reception. So,
yeah. And everybody's talking about this quarterback at Wetumpka, Rawls kid, supposed to be real good. And there's a running back at Catholic that is real good named Darrell Gibson. And Britton Kahn is the quarterback. You probably know him, the quarterback from Montgomery Academy. Mm-hmm. But the one that has got everybody talking, Mike, is this guy, Quishon Judkins, the running back at Pike Road. And Pike Road's undefeated in their first full season of football. And he scored 3 touchdowns on 7 carries. And beating, guess who, Mike? Carbon Hill. And the quarterback from Luverne is quite a player. Tanner Simmons threw for 140 yards.
Tucker, let's give his stats.
And Tucker Kilcrease, Mike, the 10th grade quarterback, threw for 295 yards and 4 touchdowns on 8 of 9 passing. Gosh. In the Bulldogs' 72-32 victory over Fruitdale. And now, Brian Galloway, the quarterback, they call him a running back, but he was a quarterback, for Goshen, rushed for 168 yards, 2 touchdowns on 15 carries, and threw for 56 yards and another touchdown on 7 of 12 passing as the Eagles win over Thorsby. Galloway is that quarterback, Mike, at Goshen that they claim is so fast. They say he's really, really fast.
That's what we heard.
They say he runs a 4.3, which is kind of unheard of for a quarterback.
They say he is really, really fast.
You know who is really fast is the quarterback for Ole Miss, the freshman quarterback. We were talking off the air about whether the Ole Miss coach has saved his job. I don't know if he has or not, but this system seems to be perfect for that quarterback, right? Of the option running up.
But the problem they got to face, Mike, he's going to probably sign a professional baseball contract, isn't he?
Yeah, I heard that. You know, it's actually 39 degrees in Troy right now. Later tonight it'll be 22.
Oh, boy. Let me throw out a few more high school players. Rice, I want you to hear this. Baron Brack. You ever heard of that family, the Brack family?
Okay.
They've got a son that's quarterback at Pike Road that's leading them. Threw for 152 yards and 2 touchdowns on 5 of 7 passing and rushed for 43 more in the Patriots' 45-0 win over Carbon Hill. So thank you so much, he's from Oregon. Listen, we're not giving your team any respect at all. No. And Mike, if the coaches were going to all get in a fist fight and they'd have a tournament, it would come down to the coach at Oregon and the coach at where? LSU. That's what the guys got. You're exactly right. Well, hey, they're gonna have a fist fight in the middle of the field on the last game of the season. And who do you think would win? The big guy at Oregon, or the big?
You'd probably have to kill Orgeron. I don't know if
he's liable to pull a pistol out too.
He still pumps iron. I saw some feature story on him, and he has barbells in his office. And
he's mean as a snake.
What he did in the locker room after the game when the LSU guys was filming it, we can't say what he said because it was profanity, but he was real classless.
He's not the classiest guy in the world.
As an Alabama fan who thinks we might just see those guys again, I kind of like that. I hope all the Alabama players saw that, and they'll take note.
Hey, I like what the...
He sure was saying a lot of big stuff, considering LSU had lost 8 in a row to Alabama.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they beat Alabama on a regular basis, the way he talked.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you this. He finally got a quarterback, and a lot of other teams could have won at LSU if they'd had a quarterback. But let me tell you something. This guy at Oregon's a bad dude, buddy.
Cristobal.
He
was a starting offensive lineman at Miami.
He was an All-American lineman at Miami.
Yeah, 6'5", 6'6", and he's a...
I watched him play. I watched the playback of the Sugar Bowl with Curry's last game when Alabama lost to Miami, and I think he played in that game.
Yeah. We want to take a short break. It's 8:05. We'll be right back.
Big discounts, big selection, and big, really big deals. It's the big pre-owned sale. Only at Premier Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Pre-owned vehicles start at $29.95. Over 50 vehicles under $15,000. $29 down. And you can drive today or take advantage of payments starting at $99 a month. That's $29 down. And payments starting as low as $99. From Montgomery to Dothan, the best pre-owned deal are at Premier Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram or online at PremierChrysler.com. Nobody beats a Premier deal. Nobody.
Piggly Wiggly's local butchers are on site at both stores and will help you select the best cuts of meat and trim them to your liking. Our USDA choice beef is the most consistently tender, juicy, and flavorful beef you can buy, all at cost plus 10%.
At Marguerite's, we've been designing and crafting custom jewelry for 4 generations. It's an art for master jewelers. There's really no room for error. It doesn't matter how big the diamond is. You don't expect anything less than perfection. What matters is quality, beauty, and value. After all these decades, your engagement ring is still our greatest pride. Marguerite's exquisite jewelry.
Are you a driver trainee looking for a job? Then come to Wiley Sanders Truck Line, where we reimburse you for your driver training pay. Thank you so much for bringing Reed Steak to Wiley Sanders Truck Line.
Absolutely. Now that we brought them to you, what do you have to offer them?
I have a lot to offer them. I can offer them 401k. I can give them 4% of their gross pay. I can give them Blue Cross Blue Shield. I can get them home twice a week and every weekend. That's right, twice a week, every weekend. Wiley Sanders Truck Lines, Troy, Alabama. Thank you, sir.
If you've had an accident or just want a new look for your vehicle, come see us at Troy Paint and Body, where we do it right the first time. Our staff has more than 100 years combined experience and can handle repairs and paint work on any make or model. We also offer a lifetime guarantee as long as you own your vehicle. Our 24-hour towing service means we're here when you need us. Troy Paint and Body, where we may meet by accident, but you'll be glad we did. So come see us at Troy Paint and Body, located on South Brundage Street in Troy beside the post office.
Pike County.
That's our show, ladies and gentlemen, and we've heard
That's
a rumor.
Don't say it.
No, we're not going to say it right now. But
probably a lot of people
want to mention a couple of more guys from Goshen got recognized this week. Raycon Martin, the running back, had a rush for about 70 yards and a touchdown on 3 carries and had 2 catches for 40 more yards in the win. Goshen 35-0 win over Thorsby. I was looking down here, the wide receiver, DeAndrea Owens out of Brantley, rushed for 85 yards and a touchdown and on 3 carries in their big win. Boy,
Brantley had 3 players that were listed in there.
That's right. They were loaded with talent, no question. Also want to mention the Smithhart kid from Opp. We already mentioned that threw for 340 yards and 4 touchdowns and out of 6 of 25. That kid can play somewhere, this Smithhart kid.
I want to see Brantley play. And I mean, Goshen and Luverne, stunning that Pike County lost. That's why they play the games, though.
And here's a kid that's going to be a big recruit. His name is Eric Gregory, and he's out of Luverne. And, of course, his daddy was an All-American at Troy and held the rushing record. Might still hold it at Troy. Compiled for 8 tackles.
Yeah, he got his record got broken by DeWitt Betterson, and I think Sean broke Betterson's record.
Yeah.
I remember his daddy, though. He was really good.
Yeah, no question. But we were just wanting to talk a little bit about these guys and how well they played during the first round of the playoffs.
Boy, if it stays this cold on Friday night and Thursday night for some of these playoff games, these kids will be putting their hands in their pants. I mean, I remember in 1980 playing in some playoff games. I didn't play. I sat on the bench. But, man, there were some cold games.
You were just a 10th grader.
I know.
You know, back those days, let me tell you this. You had to be awfully good as a 10th grader to get to play. And, you know,
I felt like a little boy.
That's how good those teams were.
You looked at all the seniors on the team. They looked like men. But there were some, late in the playoff season, there were some cold games. Now, the people that play, they warm up in a hurry, but those people standing on the sidelines freeze their bones off.
Let me just make...
How about Ed Rigby, Dad? You know, all he's done is, in his second year at UFALA, of course, Coach Rigby's, lives here in Troy and drives the Eufaula every day. But he's got Darrell Jernigan on staff. He's got Rodney Jordan, who's a great coach who ought to be a head coach somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
On staff. And they're 9-2, and all they do is beat Blunt out of Mobile 35-6.
That's beating them with a good team.
Rodney
right?
Jernigan is coaching at Eufaula?
Well, he's been with Rigby everywhere he's been.
Yeah, boy, he was a great lineman.
That's right. No.
From Goshen. He was one of the better offensive linemen I ever remember watching at Troy.
Mike, out of all the...
He was the offensive coordinator, when Charles Anderson played in the state championship game.
Mike, out of all the Charles Anderson
coach.
players that you can think of, I know who you're going to name. Who's the greatest Trojan of them all?
In what, high school?
Yeah, let's just say in the last 25 years.
Offensive coordinator?
No, players.
Come on, at Charles Anderson High School or Troy University?
At Charles Anderson High School.
I mean, it's got to be Sin K, I would think.
Ronaldo Sincade Pennington.
I mean, it's got to be
How about
him.
you, Rice? What do you think?
It's got to be him or McBride, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And Bride was great, but there was another one out there, too.
I mean, John Johnson was I think John Johnson had the best season of a player I'd ever seen at Charles Anderson High School. His senior year, he was just phenomenal.
Yeah. And I'll go out and say the best quarterback, and this is over Al Head, as good as Al Head was. We've never, ever had a quarterback as good as the Ingram kid.
He was good. Yeah.
Boy, he was really good at quarterback.
He also had the kid that played at Auburn when he got hurt. What was it, Ra-Ra White?
Yeah, Ra-Ra was good. We had two guys like...
Then he had the guy that played in the national championship team and was all SEC out of Troy.
Deveridge, the defensive back?
Think of this.
Yeah, Zach Etheridge.
That's what I was going to say. Three players I ought to say this to see if somebody can win a cooler. But three players that played at Auburn, Mike, had their careers completely taken away from them by injury.
Etheridge came back after his neck injury and was on the national championship team, was the starting safety, had an interception in the game.
When Etheridge got hurt, they held the game up almost an hour.
Yeah.
Do y'all remember that?
Yeah, they cut his helmet off on the field.
He laid there for almost an hour. Most of the people thought he was going to die because they spent so much time on him,
Mm-hmm.
And
he came back and started his whole senior year. It was amazing.
And then Charles Anderson lost one of their all-time greats, on the field. The first time I've ever seen that, which was a terrible thing.
Damian Harris, they called him Squirrel.
But let me tell you this, and Rice can understand this more than most all the rest of them. Give me Willie Collins and I'll beat the world.
But he's more than 25 years ago.
I know, but give me Willie Collins and I'll beat the world. It's about like having Joe Frazier playing for you. How tough was Willie Collins?
He just dominated everybody he played against.
Yeah, and he was on that state championship team in '80, and of course they had those two good running backs.
You win championships with defense, and that team had a great defense, but it all starts up front, and he was the one.
And he was sort of a nose or a tackle.
He was a tackle, and then Jacob Money was real good at another defensive tackle, and then had a real small nose guard that was super quick, James Stringer.
But let me tell you, the
John
guy
Kelly, the late John Kelly was.
When Jeffcoat left, Bobby Lee became the head coach.
Yeah, he was on that staff. Yes, sir.
He did. I think he did.
But let me tell you this.
Coach Lee was one of my favorite coaches.
He was Ronnie Gilliland was later on one of the coaches. But let me tell you who was a great linebacker on that team was Shiver.
Yeah.
He was a middle linebacker. They played a southern diamond, and they had it set up where
that's
you could
Neil Armstrong's brother-in-law.
Where you could not.
It was a 6'1" defense. Yeah,
he was supposed to make all the tackles. You remember that?
Yeah, and he was great. Yeah, no doubt.
He was.
Paul Shiver. Michael Thomas was a defensive end.
And an offensive end too, wasn't he?
Todd Rainey was 200 pounds. Was the free safety.
Yeah.
Felton was the strong safety that was real
Who
good.
Was that tight end?
Kenny Keith was the cornerback.
That's right. They played at Troy. Who was that tight end?
Michael Kelly was.
Kelly.
He was a freshman that year. He didn't play.
Oh, okay.
But he was outstanding. Yeah. The two other defensive ends that rotated were my best friend Charles Bradshaw was a sophomore, the only sophomore that really played.
You remember Charlie Bradshaw, Mike?
And Emory Ellis, who's moved back to Troy, he was an outstanding.
My next door neighbor.
Well, he was an outside linebacker that year, and when Paul graduated. Emery became the inside linebacker his senior year.
We appreciate all our good friends at First Cahaba Bank, located on Publix Boulevard in Troy, Alabama, the John Withington Drive. I tell you, it's a wonderful new bank located right there in an area that's easy to get to from all aspects of our community. Grady Caps and his staff there do a wonderful job.
Can I go back to that 80 team?
Yeah.
I was talking about how important defense was. I'd like to look at some of those scores. That team played a heck of a schedule. I mean, some really good teams.
They didn't score a bunch of points.
And every team, all these big games Troy won, they only gave up one touch. In the state championship game, they gave up one touchdown. Played San Hope Elmore twice. I think they gave up one. Elba had a great team, gave up one touchdown.
Had a great team.
Greenville gave up one touchdown.
That's right.
Eufaula gave up, I think,
one of them
touchdowns.
One of them had I want to say Elba had the great running back.
Who fortunately had a sprained ankle like Tua.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
I think he ran the ball one time and he got 15 yards and then he hurt it again. And
yeah.
Well, they had
Don Horsted, the late Don Horsted was a great one. You know, Ted, now let me just say this.
Don Horsted passed away?
Yeah, he passed away. Let me just say this. If you started looking at brothers that were great, Ted Horsted and Don Horsted, boy, those were two great brother acts. Don't you agree?
And then 2 years before that, they had Russ Wood.
Yeah. Of course, Russ Wood was a great one at Alabama. I can hear John Forney right now. His head and knocked down by Russ Wood. As the youngster from Elba is being lifted up off the ground across the way by Coach Paul Bryant.
You'll see Russ in two famous highlights for Alabama history. Bo Over the Top was Russ's senior year, and you'll see Russ Wood, number 89, come down, and he almost hits Bo Jackson. And Bo goes over the top of Russ Wood, and the sack that sealed the Alabama Liberty Bowl game against Illinois, when Coach Bryant got his final win, was made by Russ Wood. Yeah. Boy, he just creamed that quarterback.
Yeah, and let me just say this. I want to say this. I could be wrong, but I think he carried Coach Bryant to his grave. I think he was Paul Bearer. Was it Paul Bearer?
No, that was Jeremiah Castile.
Sure, no, but no, he had several Paul Bearers, and I thought Russ Wood was one of them.
He could have been, but no, it was the star of that team that had 3 interceptions in that final game was Jeremiah Castile.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the funeral and everything.
Why did Mac Wood leave Troy to go back to Elba? Was he from Elba?
No, he was from Greenville. Mac Wood was a great coach. Whoa, man, what a football
Why would he leave Charles Henderson to go to Elba?
His brand of coaching was a little different. It really was. Compared to what they'd had before, Matt Wood was hard-nosed. and when his offensive lines lined up, buddy, they lined up straight. He had great teams at Elba. And prior to coming to Charles Henderson, Mike, he was a coach at T.R. Miller. He was a great coach, and so was. And I was looking.
And his former wife. She stayed at Charles Henderson as a teacher for a long time.
A teacher, yeah, no question about it. And of course,
I always have a hard time trying to think about coaches at Charles Henderson. You had Jeff Cope, then Bobby Lee, then who was after Bobby Lee? Fulkerson?
No, Gillen. Because my little brother Bobby played for those people. I remember when Coach Lee got relieved, a lot of the players went to the city council town meeting and protested. They wanted to keep Bobby Lee. He was real popular, but then Bobby Lee went into administration and eventually became the principal at Charles Henderson.
Bobby Lee was a great guy.
When I was at Charles Henderson, but Coach Gillen, did he ever have good teams at Charles Henderson? I don't remember.
They were fair. They all ran the wishbone because of
Bobby's senior year they went 6-4 and made the playoffs and lost on the field goal in the first round.
The quarterback was the Rainey kid, wasn't he?
No, Sam Drake. And Bobby was the captain of that team, my little brother.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They were pretty good. But they lost by a field goal in the first round of the playoffs, and they tell a funny story. They were all bluesing on the bus ride home, and then somebody said, y'all, think about it. If we won this game, we were going to have to play Greenville next week. And they'd already played Greenville in the regular season and lost by about 48-0. Greenville was awesome that year.
They were good.
And went on to win the state championship, and everybody said, oh, you're right. and then everybody started laughing and having a great time. So, what would they have achieved by winning that game?
Was our coach at Pike Liberal? He won a state championship at Greenville. I was wondering, did he win that? Was he the head coach? I can't remember.
Wayne Grant?
No,
I thought he was the assistant coach.
No, he was the head coach at Greenville when they won the state championship too.
Gene Allen was?
Gene Allen, you're right.
I thought they won it when Ozell Powell.
I think they must have won it more than once. You know, and of course the guy that was their coach to begin with, he and I went to school together at Troy, and I can't remember his name.
Hey, I'll tell you all a story. I think I'm right on this. We got some viewers in Dothan. Before that state championship season, Charles Simpson played a spring jamboree, which was a real game back then, against Northview in Dothan. This was right before we won the state championship. Northview won, but it was a very competitive, close game. They were Class 4A. Charles Simpson was 3A. Northview was the biggest classification. Well, the next year, Charles Simpson won the state championship in 3A, and Northview won it in 4A.
Yeah.
And I think one of the star players for Northview was Larry Roberts that played at Alabama in the.
And I think they ran the wishbone back then too. Their quarterback, I think, was a wishbone quarterback. I'm not sure, for sure. But I want to look at the playoffs as we take a look at who made it through, and just looking at the 2A, Goshen plays at Leroy. Goshen 8-3, Leroy 9-2. And Mike, they still have that running back at Leroy that everybody was talking about 3 or 4 years ago. As a 9th grader, he was just a great player, and they say he's still on that team. Lafayette 6-4 at Arrington. Arrington's 9-2. That's a running the table. They've won 9 straight. And listen to here, what a ball game this is going to be. Luverne 11-0 at GW Long 9-2. That should be a good one there.
Mm-hmm.
And this is 2A brackets.
How many teams are we down to now? How many games are there?
We're down to, well, how many games? Let's see, that would be 10 games left.
No, let's see. So how many teams are left in the playoffs? Is it 16 or 8?
That would be 20, wouldn't it?
Well,
something like that.
I think they added around the playoffs.
But I was looking at that. Providence, Kenny Keith's team, listen to this, 10-1 at Gordo. That's going to be tough on him. Plumerton, the defending state champion. I was wondering where they got all those players. They're 10-1 against St. James, 10-1. And T.R. Miller of Bruton, 7-4 at Montgomery Academy, 7-4. And Mike, I was just as stunned like everybody else was that T.R. Miller came to Pike County and won that game.
If they won that game, I would say they're a strong favorite to make it to the state championship game.
They're playing well at the right time. That's the thing about the playoffs. If you're playing well at the end, you got a chance, and they're evidently much better.
That's this whole thing about the playoffs. It's really who gets hot at the right time. It's especially true in basketball.
I want to look at Andalusia. They play Lincoln. Lincoln's 9-2. Andalusia's 8-3. They play at Andalusia. By the way, we've got a huge basketball game tonight, Mike. Troy plays Chattanooga, University of Chattanooga. I want to say that is a 6 o'clock start. I'm not positive, but that is going to be a great game against a very good Chattanooga team.
And Troy lost a heartbreaker against UAB. God.
And I want to say tickets are for students, $2 for $5, and they had a huge crowd last Thursday. And I mean, I don't know out of all the events I've seen Troy play in, and national championships, I've seen a lot of great events that Troy Athletics has played in. But that Thursday, as far as promoting your program, showing everybody that Troy is a bona fide Division 1A program, with that crowd and that motivation and all that goes with the pageantry of basketball.
The excitement.
I've never seen anything like it. Hey, I reckon one of the things that made it so special was the Sound of the South Marching Band, almost 400 members in their group, was the pep band. The whole band. Can you believe how UAB felt when they started playing that music?
Oh, what a heartbreaker. Lost
and
the
they
three-point
lost
shot
at the buzzer. And it was a fabulous game. Fabulous game.
I went to the Fall Festival at Troy Elementary School. The crowd would have been a lot bigger because I know there were 1,000 people at the Troy Elementary School Fall Festival.
You're exactly
same
right.
night.
Jason was there. Jason told me he enjoyed it. Of course, premier Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, and Ram trucks on the bypass. Ladies and gentlemen, they'll beat anybody's deal. Anybody's deal on one of those wonderful Dodge, Chrysler, Jeeps, and Ram trucks that you'll find available to you in great numbers at.
Hey, Mike, I got my order in from my dressing at Sisters.
Did you get it in?
Yep, it wasn't too late. So
I'm glad. If you hadn't got it in, you better get it in. But out of all the upsets that I was looking at in high school football, it's got to be the Pike County game at the Bulldogs.
You have a great regular season. You go undefeated in the regular season, and then in the first round of the playoffs, you get upset. I mean, that's football.
And as good as Pike County was, they probably did not play what we call a real tough schedule. Now, they did play Sweetwater, and they blew Sweetwater out, but they lost 25-13 to Pike County. Pike County loses to T.R. Miller in what I thought was probably the biggest upset in the whole state.
I agree. It was big to me.
Mike Amos, along with Bill Rice Jr., speaking to you from our studios on South Brundage Street in Troy, Alabama. Very few people, Bill. Of course, you've been around the media, and of course, you've been the media for a long time. Very few people in very few towns have a studio like this, that we can go out on Facebook to the entire world.
I want to find the town that does, the other town, one town.
Well, we've had numerous calls from New York. People that were on business in New York want to call in down here. And we've had one from, listen to this now, and the Chinese might not like it, but we we had a call one day from the magic city of the Chinese.
Really?
Yeah.
So we've had a call from China on this air?
There was a guy that was on business there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and
it is worldwide.
Yeah, no question about it.
Today in L.A.
Yeah, exactly.
I bet there might be somebody in the other L.A. watching right now.
The name of the community was Hong Kong.
Oh, yeah, they're having a lot of going on in Hong Kong
exactly
now.
Right. Of course, our guy Scott's out there. Scott, what are some other places that we've heard from since we've been doing this show?
Well, I know people have watched from the southeast, right? So we've seen people watching at least from Louisiana.
Or what we call hits, hits. And
some from Georgia as well. I'm trying to remember where we've seen people call from. I can't remember right off the bat.
Let me ask you this. We did the Troy University Appreciation Day Parade. Did we get a lot of hits on that?
I can tell you in just a second.
All right, I'd like to see it. That's one of the most popular events
you were there.
of the year, and we were doing it. Did you watch any of it?
Well, no, I was there live.
Oh, yeah. Did your little girls
that was the first one they had been to. Oh, they had a great time. Jack's favorite unit was the loud motorcycles.
See, now my little girls were doing this, look.
Yeah, I was too. When did they stop letting them throw candy out of the floats?
I don't know, but it's probably a smart deal because, one of these kids could move
out there and get hurt.
But I thought the parade was excellent. I thought the chamber did a super job, and the city did a super job putting it together. I tell you, we've got
brings
good
a lot of people downtown.
The next big parade will be the Christmas parade,
which has gotten bigger and bigger, right?
Big, and it's a night. It's at night. It'll go around 6 o'clock.
459 views, 896 reached.
896 we reached were hits, and then 400 and something actually watched the.
I had a good conversation with Cliff Lusk at Troy University Public Relations, great guy, and he was out there taking pictures, and I told him, when I was a newspaper guy, I got some of my best pictures at parades.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you would get pictures of the units, but really where you got the cute pictures were of the kids watching the parade. And you took their picture and they didn't know that they were having their picture taken.
Thank you for being with us, brother.
All right.
Have a great day. See you tomorrow morning, bright and early for Today in L.A. Have a great one.